What were your Adobe Photoshop and InDesign skills like at the beginning of the course? My Adobe Photoshop and InDesign skills were completely different at the start of the course, as I had previously used Photoshop quite a lot to create different documents, and I knew a lot of the functions by just trying out different functions, so I already had some good knowledge about Photoshop prior to the course. InDesign, on the other hand, I had never used, so I had to learn its layout to be able to create my magazine on it. How far had your Adobe Photoshop and InDesign skills progressed by the time you had completed your preliminary exercise? I had acquired more InDesign skills as I knew the layout of the software and was able to create master pages, as well as begin structuring a magazine by adding bleeds and using rulers so that I can add in text boxes and images in the correct places on the page. I had not really gained any extra Photoshop skills as I was focusing on learning how to use InDesign. What lessons did you learn about the use of technologies by the time you had completed your preliminary exercise? After completing my preliminary exercise, I understood how important it is to be prepared if technology doesn't respond. When producing my magazine for the preliminary exercise, InDesign crashed many times and didn't respond, so I had to close the software before I could continue with my work. It is also very important to save work often, as the software that is being used could easily erase all the work you've done if you have not saved it recently. How far had your Adobe Photoshop and InDesign skills progressed by the time you had completed your main task? Throughout the main task, my skills when using Adobe Photoshop and InDesign were improving as I learnt new shortcut techniques and features that could slightly improve my work but make a significant difference. My skills when using Photoshop were already very good due to using it before, however I now know that my InDesign skills have significantly improved when creating my magazine, as the quality of my magazine is high and I have included a lot of aspects that are unique and take some skill and knowledge around the software I have used to produce. What lessons did you learn about the use of technologies by the time you had completed your main task? By the time I had completed my main task, I knew that using hardware was quite difficult and it is important to practice using it. When I first used a DSLR camera, the images I took weren't in full focus as they were blurred. This meant that they were not usable as they weren't nice to look at. I kept on practicing using the camera and I ended up taking some good photos. With software I learned a few helpful things. When putting clipping mask on text from InDesign, I struggled to get the image to be reinserted back into InDesign without a background. I found out that it had to be a PNG, and that PNGs can only be created in Photoshop if the channels are set to RGB instead of CMYK. What were the advantages/disadvantages of each of the technologies you have used? InDesign is very useful for creating magazines as it has rulers and different settings to make it easy to construct the layout of a magazine before you even start to add images and text. This means that creating the magazine is not as difficult as the foundations are already laid out to put images and text boxes in. InDesign does have some disadvantages, as working with text boxes can be problematic, especially when an article has to be modified and split to make sure that it all fits on the page. I also had a problem with words being hyphenated, and when I fixed this, they would turn into drop capitals. However, I did manage to fix this quite quickly. Photoshop is a great piece of software which is very advanced, but has a simple layout which makes it easy to figure out what each function does. Photoshop is perfect for editing photographs, to improve how they look, and modify text by creating clipping masks, to put a design over each letter and make it unique. Photoshop also allows for files to be exported as a variety of file types like PNG and JPEG to make sure that they are compatible with a variety of other pieces of software. There are not many problems with Photoshop, but I did have some difficulty with clipping masks as layers were not rasterized or there was no background layer. However, I figured out how to fix these problems and managed to do what I wanted to the text. The DSLR camera is a brilliant camera which comes with a variety of features to improve the picture quality or add effects like overlays on the image without the need of editing software. The DSLR was great at taking high quality photographs and had a flash to brighten up the picture, however it was not too bright so the image didn't look grainy after being taken. There are some disadvantages of using the DSLR, as it is quite advanced so it takes time to learn how to take pictures and view them in the gallery. Putting on flash was also tricky as we didn't know how to do it until the third session of taking photos.